Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're located, and thank you for joining today's webinar, where we will demonstrate how clients realize value in Ultimo and will hopefully help you in making your next EAM decision. Before we dive in, I have a few housekeeping notes. This webinar is being recorded, and we will make that available within the next 24 hours. We encourage questions in the chat and will be responding to those throughout the session. I also want to take a moment and introduce our speakers today. I'm Tina Scott, North America Sales Director. I joined IFS Ultimo recently and bring 25 years of industry experience. Along with me, I have two esteemed Ultimo colleagues, Baron Boones, our EAM product evangelist. He's a solution-oriented thinker, always looking to share insights and spark enthusiasm in the enterprise asset management space. And last, but certainly not least, we have Chris Madrid, who has been a solution engineer in this space for the last 7 years. Chris will be driving the demo for us today. So you may have joined today because you're at this pivotal point and faced with making a decision to stay on your current EAM solution or evaluate a move that better aligns with your organization's goals and objectives. If you're here for that reason, this webinar is for you. So let's begin with the basics. Who is Ultimo? Ultimo was founded in 1988 in the Netherlands with operations today in 6 regions globally, in our U.S. headquarters in Itasca, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. With a large user base of over 2,200 customers managing 10 million assets, Ultimo is recognized as a leader in the enterprise asset management space. Our solution is used by over 100,000 technicians, and we have a 98% customer retention rate. In 2022, IFS acquired Ultimo as a best-of-breed solution tailored for companies not looking to replace their entire ERP, but focusing on elevating their asset management. The strength of IFS has provided significant opportunities for partnerships and investment pouring back into Ultimo. So here are some common brands and logos you may recognize. This speaks to the depth and the breadth of the industries we support. As a global software provider, our customer base is widespread and diverse, both in location and industry in which they operate. All of them have one thing in common: they benefit daily from Ultimo's best-of-breed EAM solution. Companies like Kikkoman, Lotus Bakeries, and others in the food and beverage industry, as well as BP in oil and gas, TTI in transport and logistics, and Rockwool in manufacturing. All of them have made the shift to a more efficient and cost-effective way of working, supported in their journey by Ultimo. There are numerous reasons why Ultimo is the EAM of choice for all of these companies. One of the most powerful features is how comprehensive the solution is. Assets of all types and specifications can be managed from within a single platform, enabling interdepartmental collaboration. With Ultimo, you are providing a powerful tool to your asset professionals, and on top of that, one that is extremely easy to use. The solution is modular and therefore entirely scalable. You don't end up paying for functionality you don't use, and the user is not burdened with incomprehensible features. Ultimo is the ideal partner for your journey towards operational excellence, and we have an impressive portfolio of integrations seamlessly that connect our data platform to any solution of your choice. It can be IoT, ERP, finance, HR, you name it, we support it. Ultimo offers an unparalleled time to value and unmatched return on investment. So I'm going to hand the presentation now over to Berend, and he's going to introduce you to the circle of collaboration, which illustrates how Ultimo is a platform providing a single source of truth between departments across your organization. Berend, now over to you.
Thank you so much, Tina. I think Ultimo is also very much a tool that addresses challenges. And in most organizations, getting your different teams and departments to align, right, towards a common goal or a business objective is one of those real challenges. Now, in order to combat this, what you may consider is implementing the best practices that are contained within the circle of collaboration. We did some research back in 2023 and we published the EAM trend report. And one of the biggest inhibitors towards achieving operational efficiency and being more efficient in your day-to-day work and operational excellence is a lack of communication between different departments. For example, between your maintenance department, your operations department, and also the HSE department. So what is often the case is that they have a very siloed approach almost towards working, where the primary focus for each of the individual actors is on achieving their own goals and their own targets and their own objectives, right? So for example, we'll have the operations department on the one hand, and their responsibility is going to be with operating the assets, and what they want to do is meet their daily production targets. Then the maintenance department, on the other hand, is responsible for the management and the maintenance of the asset. And what they need to do is ensure the uptime and also the availability of the asset. And finally, added into the mix, the HSE department. What they are trying to do is create a safe work environment in which everyone works in a very compliant fashion. In order to get these different teams with their own individual objectives aligned and headed the same direction, any organization will greatly benefit from having access, as Tina said, to a centralized single source of truth platform like the one IFS Ultimo offers. So the IFS Ultimo solution is very heavily based on this principle, the principle of the circle of collaboration, and it will really allow the organizations that work with it to elevate the level of safety in their working, increase productivity, and also increase the availability of the asset itself. The model itself, it works in such a way that it provides an overview of the collaborative effort that it takes or is required of the different departments involved. So on the outer ring here for the circle, you see the name of some of the functional modules that we support within IFS Ultimo. And if we just take a bird's eye view here, we see that sometimes some actions are required from one of the departments, and some of the responsibilities between those departments are either shared or aligned or need to be aligned to further achieve their common goals. Ultimately, what we're going to end up with is an overview that is going to create what I'd like to call a spider's web, right? So we see all those shared responsibilities, those shared actions, branching out and creating this spider web overview. What I think this neatly depicts is that this is very much a combined effort and everyone has their own responsibility. But in order to further progress, and in order to attain the sort of operational efficiency and excellence that the organization is after, what they need to do is they need to start collaborating and they need to start communicating. And this is exactly what Ultimo facilitates. But much more than just having access to the functional side of things, there's also a lot of possibilities when it comes to integrations, right? As we can see on this slide right here. Now, consider or think about integrating the single source of truth that is Ultimo with your APM functionalities or your IoT or ERP or even track and trace functionalities. The possibilities here really are endless and very exciting at the same time. So what Ultimo is able to offer is a best-of-breed solution that makes sure that all of the departments within the organization, they have their own objectives and they have the business objectives aligned. They have all their ducks in a row and are neatly working together towards those shared common goals and common objectives. Now, to further look at this from the perspective of one of the main contributors to the circle, I'd like to hand over to Chris to give you a demonstration of how, in particular, the maintenance department might go about their day-to-day. Chris?
Thank you, Barrett. I appreciate the introduction. And again, folks, my name is Chris Madrid, one of the solutions engineers here for Ultimo. Want to extend some gratitude your way as well for joining us this morning, this afternoon, or this evening. We understand time is one of those commodities that's a short supply for everybody these days. So again, thank you for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. What we want to do is kind of take a look at what does a day in the life of a maintenance professional kind of look like. We're going to go ahead and share here. So as we begin our day, if I am a maintenance manager and I get to my workstation, fire up Ultimo, have my cup of coffee, this is the sort of thing I can expect to see. Now, it's important to understand that I have this set up in a way that makes sense for me. It's never a cookie cutter approach because what I find important may not be what you find. So what I have here on my home screen is I have the ability to report failures. I have the ability to report downtime. I also can see what jobs I have to execute on a daily basis. Now, what I want to do is take you through the day in the life of an actual work order. And what that would look like is from an operations standpoint, we can go ahead and report these failures directly into Ultimo. Typically, what we find is that the communications between operations and maintenance aren't very clear. And here we want to remove those barriers to make it easy for our users. So when I say, hey, look, I have a piece of equipment that is not working or functioning correctly, well, what we can do is go ahead and create a report and load this into the system. Now, what we can do is begin to give it a description, whether that be, the piece of equipment is not working. We'll just take a very high-level approach here. We can give it select a functional position, select the object, and the object in this case being a piece of equipment or an asset that you have in your facility. Now, furthermore, what your users can do is go ahead and start giving an explanation as to what is actually going on with this piece of equipment. We could say, hey, it's not starting or it's not functioning correctly. One of the neat things that we can also do here is add in things like photographs. Because when you tell a maintenance manager that something is not functioning correctly, or in this case, let's say it has a leak, it means nothing to them, right? They're going to start asking questions like, what does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like, right? So what we can do is add in those photos. That way, when it goes back to the maintenance department, they know exactly what the issue is with that piece of equipment. Now, after we're done, we're just going to go ahead and send this on over. And what that'll do is when you log into your system, you'll be found here. It'll be found here in your jobs to execute, and you'll be able to see this in the form of a job list. Now, when we take a look at the actual work order or the work request, everything that you need to have attached to this work order can be found here. So me as a maintenance manager, I can see I have an issue with the forklift. I know what department it belongs to, and I know what site it belongs to, along with who requested it and what time they actually requested this. Now we can go ahead and start giving this a lead time. So if I think this is going to take about an hour, we'll load an hour in here. And I need this piece of equipment up and running right now. So I'm going to set this as a high priority. Now, some of the other things are going to be available to you here. If there's any documentation that you need to have added along with this work request, it can be added directly out of Ultimo. Whether that be a user manual, a pamphlet, we can do things like P&ID, blueprints, schematics, even things like CAD drawings as well. Now, for the job plans, this is what I say these are the steps that I want performed on this inspection. Now, usually what we have found, and this is for me talking to, folks just like yourself over the last several years, is that maintenance has an issue, and that issue is an aging workforce. People who have been turning wrenches for 35 years know exactly what to do in order to get this piece of equipment back up and running. Now, for the younger generation, they're more apt to use the technology to their advantage. And when we use things like job plans, what we're doing is giving them a standardized process on how to get this piece of equipment back up and running. This becomes a standard, it becomes consistent, and becomes repeatable as well. Now, if there's any materials that we need to associate to this work order, those can be added here, along with things like lockout and tagout procedures. So if we need to have a standardized process for our lockout tagout, we can add those in there as well. Now that we have everything associated with this job or this work order, one of the things I usually like to talk about is the scheduler. So after we determine, hey, this has everything that we need, we can go ahead and schedule this out. Now, one of the things that I always like to show, and it's really not used too heavily, but it's nice to show this, is we can actually go ahead and schedule this job per employee. We can schedule this per a roster group. So when we schedule it per roster group, this is usually broken out by disciplines. Right? So we're not going to give a plumbing job to somebody, to a department whose specialty is, electrical. But if we just take a look here, and I'm going to filter this out for the next 5 days because we work 5 days a week. What we can do is on the right-hand side here, we can see the jobs that I have to plan. Now, what we can do is we can go ahead and take one of these and go ahead and drop this onto that person's schedule. And what will happen is that they'll get a notification saying, hey, this person has a new job, and they can go ahead and create that. Now, if this person for any reason can't perform the work, let's say their kid is sick at school, they need to leave for the day, what we can do is go ahead and remove it, and we can go ahead and assign leave directly from the software here. Now, from a scheduling standpoint, that's sort of what it can look like. Now, from a day-to-day standpoint, what it looks like for your maintenance folks, the people who are actually turning wrenches, what I can do is go ahead and emulate a mobile device here. And this is sort of what it looked like for them. You can see that we have a couple of different options. If I'm a maintenance professional, I say, hey, look, I'm going to pop into my maintenance here. All of my jobs that I have to execute can be found here. So when I take a look at my scheduled jobs or the team jobs, those are going to be found, and with criticality being pushed to the top. What this means is that, the jobs that have been deemed critical or, they need to get done right now, these are going to be forced to the top, and it's going to tell me, hey, Chris, you need to perform this job right now. So in this case, somebody told me that I have to go perform an inspection on a forklift. Now, as we enter into this work request, some of the things that can be found here, we can start registering our process or progress throughout the life cycle of this work. So we can push it forward within this life cycle. And we're also going to start and stop the time registration. So it allows you to capture the amount of time that it's taking you to actually perform this work. This is important when we start talking about things like reporting. So we can find the delta in between, hey, it's taking one person 1 hour to perform this job, and it's taking the next person 3 hours. Why is that? Now, when we actually go to perform the inspection, that's going to be found here on the inspection lines. And again, what we want to do is make this easy for our folks to use. One of the things that we found is that if it's not easy to use, folks tend to throw their hands in the air and say, I'm not going to use it. So when we perform the inspection, it's going to give me a step-by-step set of instructions on how to do this inspection. My first step is check for damages and report them. Okay, I've done that. Next step is that I need to park this thing on a level surface and get an accurate reading on my fluid levels. I've done that. So as you can see, as we go through, it's as simple as clicking a yes or no. And if we come to an inspection line that requires us to take a measurement, it's going to force the users to enter in the value. So in this case, we have a tire here. The pressure that I took, the reading that I took is going to be at 36 PSI. We're still good. And as you can see, everything is presented with pictures here as well to really give your users a step-by-step instruction on how to actually do this. Now, as we go through this and we complete it, we're going to say, hey, we're going to stop the time and go ahead and report this job as finished, and it's going to force our users to add in some other details if needed. Now, some of the other things that would be available to you here as well, we can also add photos. If there's any work permits that need to be acknowledged here, those can be acknowledged. Even on the equipment itself, everything is a 1-for-1. So what happens on one happens on the other. So as I open up my forklift here, We can see the current status. We can see things like what does the next PM do? We can even see things like bill of materials or the associated documents along with this asset. Now, coming back to the dashboard here, what we can then do is take a look at the jobs that have been completed. And usually when we do this, we talk about things like reporting. We have a deep reporting suite. And you can see here, I have my reporting module directly on my dashboard. So if there are things that I need quick reports on, I can access those things rather quickly. Now, from a work perspective, what we did is we took a look at a work order from creation to scheduling to actually completing the actual work request. From the life of a maintenance professional, this needs to be easy. And I think our software does a really good job at removing the barriers and removing the technology out of the way just so you can get to your day-to-day operations. That concludes it for me. Thank you. And I'm going to hand this back over to Tina.
Thank you, Chris, for that great demonstration. And I do have a few questions. As you demonstrated, our mobile capabilities. We know in talking with customers the importance of empowering technicians with mobile devices so that they can do their work at point of entry and record that, obviously. Can you talk a little bit more about our offline capability?
Yeah, sure. And that's actually a common concern that comes up. A lot of the times what we see is that we don't have very good connection, whether that be a production facility or we're out in the field, where folks still need to have access to their work orders, be able to go through them as if they still have connection. We do offer offline capability. So what will happen is that they still receive their work orders. They can still move through the process of actually completing the work. Once we hit a point of connectivity again, everything is reconciled automatically. That means all the data is pushed out and then reconciled all together.
Okay, great. And then, we had talked briefly about the solution being a pure-based SaaS subscription licensing model on the Azure cloud. Customers these days obviously have concerns about security. Can you talk about how secure our cloud environment is?
Sure. Yeah, and again, this is another common concern that comes up as folks are more dependent on software to do their day-to-day operations. One of the questions that always comes up is your data security. Now, we go to great lengths to make sure that all your data is secure, whether that be at rest or in transit. We are hosted on the Microsoft Azure cloud. We are ISO 9001, 27001 certified. We also have a SOC 2 Type 2 coming in early 2025.
Okay, great. Thank you. I want to talk a little bit, and Baron, I know this is kind of your area of expertise. Quick time to value. That is something that's really important to customers today. They need a solution that is going to be adopted by their users and they can quickly utilize and scale. Can you talk about some of the resources that we have available at Ultimo to help clients with quick time to value?
Absolutely. So in terms of getting up to speed with Ultimo, getting the most out of your asset management journey with Ultimo, we have the most comprehensive and extensive library of e-learning content available, which is included with a license. So this means that every single named user that gets access to the platform automatically gains access to a learning portal in which they find role-based e-learning. So that the maintenance managers, they learn how to do the maintenance, the operators can figure out how to do the reporting, and the application managers get access to a whole suite of application management training as well. So there's really a role-based approach, which a full dedicated team is working on a day-to-day basis to make that in line with all of the great functionalities that we offer.
Okay, perfect. And again, I think you said that is included with the software purchase. Is that
Absolutely.
what I heard?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
So every single user that you have a license for, they automatically gain access to the system at the same time at no extra cost.
Okay. All right. I know another thing that really impressed me as I joined the company. I had heard about all of our great partnerships that we have. We have, I believe it's over 50 partners that are out there working with clients and deploying and implementing Ultimo. Do you have any other comments that you would want to make about that?
Yeah, so Ultimo has its own marketplace for partners, where partners, they advertise the services they offer, and they range from being implementation partners to technology partners and resellers and everything in between. What is really great about this is all of the combined expertise make sure that anything that you're looking to do in the EAM space, we can fully support. So we're able to integrate and work with all of the APM solutions, ERP solutions, and all of the technological solutions that our partners are driving themselves. They can be found in this marketplace. So plenty of partners out there. Every single region across the globe has their own partner network set up, so that there's always someone close by to help get the most out of it.
Absolutely. And then another, speaking of partnerships, I wanted to also mention we've got an excellent partner event happening next week in Madrid, and it's called Nexus. And so we will have, I don't know where we stand right now with the exact number of partners, but it's going to be a wonderful event for the partners in time for training and learning and networking. So we have that event specifically for the partners. And then we have our upcoming user group called Unleashed, IFS Unleashed in Orlando in mid-October. So this will provide an opportunity for Ultimo users to come together, network, like-minded conversations and speak with thought leaders, product managers, partners. It's just an excellent event overall for our Ultimo customers. I don't believe we have any other questions. So, Baron, Chris, unless you have anything else you would like to comment on, we can go ahead and conclude this session. And as I mentioned earlier, we will make this available within the next 24 hours. And we want to thank you all for joining and look forward to speaking with you very soon.
Thanks, and have a great day.
Thank you.